Yeah, energy minister, Jinapor, Nimpenifo aka muti press conference. We are not like this is not fun. This is not fun. You can't just come and say, "Oh, can I then?" Oh, person just say, "I buy the chairman in area and I say I buy here move in the first 3 months here muna and officer." Now, oh, the next time you mount the podium, I don't want to see pictures of China phobia never fire, and then phobia never fire. You see, report that. Attract Togo like me say, oh, maybe you are crossing the borders of this country na.
You need more.
Now, me question try say who you car back or port home. You show say why experience be pain. After the long and straight, come in na. Hey, 9,000.
Now the be na bra brain.
Hey. Now, like I don't even want to hear this. We are just playing. We are joking in this country. Minister don't have to do a press conference over this. National security. This is a threat to the state. So a security zone like the port. Niamana, can you imagine how many ebia armory? Yanti ebia obia fadi edeko. Because it's in the same adi. Electricity and national security. Is that how easy things are taken off the port? Now, Cabrane de Nika to everybody, I know the all the energy, a guacra, so as is in the car. Maybe to make us a capot hopping. In fact, some I'm sure the Nanka said a big car, Mammy Munia. Unfortunately, delays at the origin, the dispatch in Intino. Emma, near me penny mum, the car, but yes, I mean, but never know expensive and coming away. I grab young comma, my things were seized at the port. Now, Moody, just say, this is not news. Okay, we have to catch on, say, this is not fun. Okay, we don't want press conference over this. National security, Obia should be questioned. Authorities at the port by now can say, Omuna, we first point of Adi. Okay. Then say, China for the port over fire, and I say, there are people we have handed over the ports to.
Oh, as citizens, now we be the final.
Seven police.
Now, Saba, I buy one alcohol. If you are better, I buy the idea. Me na no me catch me can say hira na who na you hira o so tim be too baby ade to be book hwa na hu but na hira what they say ben achi mai da so say you be we say your family bibi me ko abontina me kai ni ho a hwan na me ko police aban ho na me ko na wo de ade ko ja police a wo ko say ade na hira. But wait, because you and you are be na be na also some 40. So and you are yeah hwe and you are kwa bia yeah hwe na asamani say port e wo your port no but when you football na football field the crown also a class person you je ho ya tum security ka ho o a untimi wura ho keke na port you wo national security, NAD officers, custom officers, police, army, yeah, you containers are the bonded warehouse. Bonded warehouse, no. I mean, documentations, there are securities there. Now, container number 2, and your box, no, we're Pijadia, Kamudia. And cranes, the Pija containers, so 40-feet containers, loaded with items. And nyaba akomako ayu 13 and 10 and 2 day 1,300 now say ayira krobenzo entimi yirada enti baby no mdia kosi na yehu enti adarabi ye hwehwe ye kusu hwe ya de ayira ye hwe behu na ye dikan hu 40 a se de akosi asi a ekoba bia no kwasi problem a wo ho no se ye be kwa koto niema de o man sika na ebesi for 5 years 5 good years okay drugs now NGOs be the chair no namin kwan ka expire namin kwan ka expire there's something wrong with us something wrong bibi hard bibi atochema organa ha na say ye hwe ye ehu adwuma dan say ye years mesi ye yi bentin it doesn't solve any problem obi abeche enro woni say this your mama ewe because sabi me kwa nka me mfama ka me kwa kotogu say di nru amam say munyi mfama mo mamfo no munye binom no munya pomudin enye adwuma mfama wo ho enso mo man o say area ba e say call demorage na ECG for aka equipment aba oman mu 2,500 containers and so many fika so many be containers in it for 5 good years. I call demorage. Now, Pacho, now am I only one? Government cannot take decisions. Say, okay, seriously, a jemo. Enti monfani mananko. Na mumetu ya moka. Ya they call demorage because yenya. And one now here, yes, you see, you man. I mean, you know, Parliament. Mrano mo ya na mo yini.
Charles, 1 minute na Pacho.
Because where the 1 minute is about, I'm fancy.
1 minute.
Sure. You know, I didn't have my fee. I'm on only by.
Yeah.
I'll call Brat on the car. The Nema so or Tonema ship will contain a ba. We dry I see duty here X amount. Or so mean may paba may call may say the call a bonded warehouse. And they say a call demorage. They are 100 cities near Cotton will be 5 cities. 100 cities were young farmer, but a Jew yet Tom will be 5 cities manipani use. Because now wait near Bonnie, Tierney Party and Copon. Na yeguso ya oman a baby aba no take advantage of those things near you. Maybe the American say enya man nyina yeguso hwehwe no ehu bia ye maba mane na because yeguso check it say 40 aba.
Okay.
The out of 1,300 no 40 actually yenko baby a.
Okay.
Aba na mwa na committee mwa na yenhwe baby aka nyina ye wi a punishment is factor say the man kofu bi no yemfa mo.
Osi committee no ejuma wo ye no it is not the end essentially. And that some 3-member committee has been established to get to the bottom of it. What may nya botar ni yenwie. Na so be no about fuma. At the conclusion of all that, then we can ask the questions. Tmasre. Na crucifixion na the haste. Eji, don't be under pressure. If you follow the hawks, your hard-earned reputation and track record will be sacrificed on the altar of pandering to public pressure or your party hawks from pressure. And yeah, by all means, do your work. No issues. But from where I sit, I'm almost certain that at the end of the day, all the containers are ECG where import should be accounted for. And they should be able to. When the right people are engaged, the right questions are asked, the right audits are made, we should be able to account for all the containers. May to me account for no. Na say that was woko humbi wa Chinese for one warehouses, woko humbi wa India for one plant no. If obi no turn him on, certainly let's hold them to account. But I think that the 1,300 missing containers no committee no umbre final interim report today.
Interim report was
I find out. I who are aided up. It tells you that they probably were under some time constraint to finish, because otherwise with the caliber of people on the committee you would have expected that the final report would be a final report, an interim report would be an interim report. There certainly will not be a final interim report. I really don't want the Yabama, but of course, consistent with the NDC in nature, you better reduce it to MPP, NDC. For all you know, political actors may not even be aware. Of course, if they are not aware, then we are containers or ECG property. Question that arises as to one supervisory ability. So you can question them. I don't have a problem at all. But let's wait. Now you make conclusive findings and sana
That's fine.
The needless because on board.
We called for
the first time that I heard Sir containers was during the transition period.
Okay.
Where I heard John Jinapor saying say who are now what say about 3,000 containers has been locked up at the port.
the video.
Now the content of that containers, electrical cables, ECG, maybe, and that was alarming. The way I used to West, they said the MPP are buying 3 more day and all those kind of things. Only for him to come to Parliament. Just about 3 weeks ago, I was a minister. Obejina podium na ojina so kasa no a baby amete no me face ni sei pepepe na me hwe nanim. Who say JJ hanani na me say hey JJ. I feel the JJ make answer me into say 2,500 na me say you know the same person who said during transition period. I feel the one who call ho no o say 2,500.
Ni PR be che mu say briefing mu nyan no.
Brief no mu nya free ba. Transition period a different figure from what the port people will give you. And the port people now the figure come minister. And you how many can some no na fear abetwetwere. And since I'm no say from what I'm hearing 1,300 missing containers. So the natural say now 1,300 containers with the crow. Do you know 1,300 containers? Do you know how many ships that will bring that thing here in Ghana? Which is missing? No, it can't. It's not possible. Now, 49 more customers who Indian be warehouse, because the containers are so huge. One warehouse cannot house all the 1,003. And there are other warehouses that you have to follow up and go and find our containers for us. But you name say, "Mubeha when na mo ama fetches afefa mamunkofo." You name this mo ha money beka na mo ama sa fetche. I'm guys you now. You have to find the rest of the containers and bring it back to the port. And heads must roll on what basis? And our typical term say a year report. It finds itself in warehouses of an Indian man. And I'm told that Chinese people to be crossed on it. There should be better and proper investigation to this matter to know which people are culpable in this. Free, if I should put it that way.
I said you see bomb you because we some their mom
John Jinapor say you who 40 of the containers in a warehouse of someone per the reporter said their command.
Yeah.
It just say containers naira. It means that Anfa Kwan Papa to the free port war. And with the me establishing me a prima facie.
No, but the point about some of their mom Crawford.
Say no, the person say MPP ni bi anywhere at this time. Oh, yabuya me ani su brie. Obia enu am court sra me nana tafo hene. O say na me nana boso me me say to ba wi afere me hunam se nana. Wadaro ma bro no bobro ye no. Bani so abrimia ndi afere ma ba o. Na we do wadaro ma me so na fa chebe. So I don't think that any MPP person will have the courage. In fact, the kind of politics on your own. There are people who are saying they are financial bayaba. They know people who are MPP, they know people who are NDC.
So before okay, I say transition. And or the two just say brief you from the port. Say almost 3,000. It's about Parliament say 2,500. So then suggestions okay, and the MPP for
yes.
And no more afa air contingency. Now so the subo bomb. So on send yawo ye no.
But ade no. O no wa ban so na ade na ira me to me bob no rank me mo number. Me ko busa me container me nya container dia ma. You the minister no also busa we be a containers nafa. And I know say me so hu say it is possible that omo ankrofo no ana ade no chese ade na kwa kodi omo. Okay, you find a way
also they broke
to bring it
warehouses like they saw. Then it could be possible they would
yes. When they check anything.
No,
say container free. Na kwasi ma moti hai.
You look right, you can find a way.
Bibi free wo see you away. Bibi free until time I would to where well hours I'll be
Aye.
BB few aqua the huni profile eti container nye ade aye bobo she
Say Ghana, we say we na anajuma na say baga.
Oh yes.
I was about to say no one
Me say Africa na nipa miensa etimi ko cha de miensa na ba ko enya bi.
ECG, I had the privilege of chairing the board in July. Because I'm a businessman, the first question I ask myself is that how can ECG award a contract? And when the contract is awarded, all the person does is deliver at the port, present bill of lading, and request for payment. I said, with the greatest respect, I don't want to use a word. This is parliament. I was shattered. I said, how? And ECG would have to pay. So I realized that ECG was paying a lot of bills when they've not even had access to the goods. And when you ask them, I asked the procurement manager, director of procurement, a question. I said, why did he say, oh, chairman, this is the practice since. This is the practice. And they will bring you document. I listened to honorable member for Secondary, lawyer, you from Secondary, question meeting. And I am adopting his submissions as though they were mine. The time has come. This politics, somebody says MPP, NDC, it's a system problem that I will any day support this minister to embark on reforms. How come containers at the ports, containers that have arrived, the bureaucracy at our ports, they say the containers are missing. Mr. Speaker, it is true that when these containers come, there is some connivance with some customs officials, and they sell these containers, these cables that ECG needs after the supplier has been paid. They sell the container, and then people resell back to ECG. Are we pretending we don't know? Instead of us to pay attention and kill the rots, then we come here, then MPP, NDC. So now they say, oh, maybe it's happening under MPP, it's happening under NDC. No. An honorable minister, I know what you can do. If we can give you support to do it, you must adopt a posture, a non-partisan posture, and tackle the rots. But if we all want to approach it, MPP, NDC, Mr. Speaker, it will remain. NDC will spend 4 years, 16 years, 20 years. The same thing will be there. They will come into opposition, and the same thing would arise again. Then the perpetrators will be there in the system. Mr. Speaker, today, Ghanaian businesses cannot sleep because there's a new government, whereas foreign businesses are surviving because their ambassadors will be protecting their businesses.
Sadomako Mensah, he's former Deputy Minister for Energy, and he joins us on phone. Sir, thank you for joining the conversation.
Good morning.
I have a very simple question, really. How did we get here?
Well, that's an interesting question, and I'm not too sure if I'm well placed to
well, you are former Minister of Energy, and this is an issue that sits right in that sector. And
first of all, I don't want you to go that line. This is a criminal matter. I want us to look at it from that perspective. I'm not too happy with the politicization of it, whether it's happening under this government or the other government. Criminality is criminality. Let's go to the bottom of the issue and find the culprit. I have indicated to my colleague, Mr. John Jinapor, because I currently serve as the Deputy Ranking on Energy Committee, that as minority, we are prepared to assist in any way possible to unravel this mystery. And I think that is where the focus should be. He himself, Mr. Jinapor, listening to him, he seems to be focused on getting to the root of the matter. I think we should all assist him in getting to that particular point. Politicizing the issue, happen under this government, happen under other government, I don't think is the right way to go.
Okay, so not politicizing the issue then. Are you with me, sir? There are various legal frameworks that are supposed to safeguard the public purse against wastage like this. We have the Public Procurement Act 2003, Act 663, which mandates transparency, efficiency. We have the Audit Service Act, many of them. In fact, we have Mr. Kobnata Bedu here in the studio who will help us on the, on the angle of procurement. So without the politicization, if you were to make an educated guess as to how we arrived here, what do you think happened?
The point I'm making is that I'm not saying people shouldn't be blamed for what has happened. I am saying that let's focus our attention on getting to the root cause of the issue. A minister assumes office. He's giving a report as to the number of containers at the ports, and that ECG is unable to pay, and it's attracting demurrage. He sets up a committee to investigate. The committee report comes out, and it turns out that the figure he was given turns out to be extremely even lower what is being told. The aftermath of it, the BNI investigations, tracing it to the ports, tracing it to some warehouses and all that, obviously creates some very, very uncomfortable situation. And I myself, I'm not happy about it. If you listen to the debate on the floor, when this issue came up, we all came to the conclusion that, hey, let's support the minister to ensure that we get to the bottom of the issue. Obviously, there has to be some connivance. The vessel that brought in the containers are known. All the containers are serialized. We all know the numbers. We know the content. We know the consignee, which is ECG, who virtually owns the containers. We know the clearing agent who goes to the ports to clear. We are aware of the custom processes at the ports to get something of this nature out. And so definitely there has to be some connivance between those interested parties.
Right.
And I'm saying that I'm happy the minister has launched a full-scale investigation into this matter. For me, as a former deputy minister, of course, this didn't come to my attention. Don't forget that I joined the ministry just 6 months to the end of our administration. So this information didn't come to my attention. I've had the opportunity to speak to other colleagues, former colleagues of mine, who also say that this did not come to their attention. So I am all for the investigations. I had an interview on Metro TV where Mr. Jinapor called in, or he was called in. He indicated that apparently Dubik, who was the immediate past managing director, claims, and he told me personally that he was not called during the investigation. I would have wished that during this whole process, he being the managing director who supervised that sector during that time, would have been given a hearing to understand his perspective. But Mr. Jinapor assured that while the investigation is ongoing, he will be given an opportunity to speak, to explain his part of the story. That, I think, is the way to go. And as I said, on the minority side, on the committee, we are prepared to assist in any way possible to ensure that we get to the bottom of this issue.
Right. And I want us to listen to opinion marking and, reacting to these issues and more. But I'm curious, Mr. Adomaku Mensah, is it possible for this sort of connivance, like you say, to happen without the knowledge of the substantive minister and all the key sector players that you yourself have just outlined? Is it possible that none of them caught wind of this thing happening under their noses?
Well, personally, I didn't get wind of it. As I said, I joined 6 months to the end of it, our tenure. I didn't get wind of it. But my understanding of the processes, the ministry does not micromanage ECG. A lot of these procurement processes happens at the entity level. It does not pass to the ministry for approval. If ECG wants to bring in a container of a generator or something, they do not necessarily have to come to the minister for approval. They have a board, and I'm sure the managing director has a limit as to how much he can commit the company to a contract or that. So that does not come to, we don't micromanage the institution.
Would you say that this step that the energy minister, Mr. Jinapor, took is micromanagement? Because he's the minister, he saw some discrepancies in the figures that have been reported and what's actually there, then launch an investigation. So
he was given a handing over note. He decided to verify the authenticity of the handing over notes, and this has come up. And I have to say, and I think we should just assist him to to get to the bottom of the issue.
Okay, so the minister at the time, do you think did due diligence? If he did, would we be here now?
I'm trying to understand your question. What do you mean by the minister?
Well, you say that there's connivance. So you're saying that none of you were aware that this happened. And you also said that the ministry doesn't micromanage, which would have been a way to bring this issue to bear. I'm asking.
Your line of questioning obviously is trying to push a blame onto a minister who
I'm trying to understand how we arrive here. A scandal of this magnitude, and you're saying that no one in the ministry at the time knew that this happened.
You've called me as the former deputy minister. I was at the 6 months, and I'm saying I didn't know. If you are asking me to guess whether the minister was aware, I will not be able to say so.
All right. Now, this ECG scandal highlights some serious procurement failures.
Really?
Feel free to give me your initial reactions, but what I want to hear from you is what key procurement lapses you identified that's brought us here.
It goes just beyond procurement, sadly. It's largely criminal. And beyond the crimes, it reveals the lack of legal awareness of the management of ECG. And also their lack of appreciation for corporate governance. Now, I speak to the lack of legal awareness because, you see, procurement is not just regulated by 663. There's a gamut of laws that govern the process. And so procurement is not an event, it's a process. And there are a gamut of laws that come to play. So anybody who purports to be a procurement specialist should have the legal understanding of all these laws and when they become relevant or applicable. And it is obvious that this was lacking here. And that is why we find ourselves where we are.
Okay.
But at the heart of this is an orchestration, careful orchestration of crime. And the fact that they wanted the free rein to be able to perpetuate it. So they applied for a status that would give them the independence to perpetuate it. And it was rightly disapproved. And they went around other places to try and secure support from there.
You're talking about the request for exemption to use, commercial procurement practices.
Now, I always say that the person who has done Ghana this service, not the service, is a certain engineer who used to be at Ghana Highways, who was the one President Kufuor appointed to sit at the Public Procurement Board at the time as the chairman, who oversaw the crafting of this. His name has just escaped me. But that man understood procurement as if he has chatted. His name is not coming. Now, that provision in Section 15 was provided for because there are entities that are owned by government, but they operate in an environment which is competitive with the private sector. And so speed is essential. And the public procurement law, as was passed in 2003, was very specific about the steps you have to take and the duration. And so to complete a complex procurement process, it could take you as long as 6 months. And you can't do that in a private environment competing with private companies. So that provision was made to enable state-owned businesses that were private operating in nature to not follow this bureaucracy, because then they would have lost out on every transaction if they are competing with the private sector. For someone to say that because we are a limited liability company, so we are a private company, it just shows the person doesn't understand law. You should just go and read our Corporate Companies Act. You become a private company when ownership is not of the state, it's of private individuals. That's what makes you a private company.
Which means ECG is bound by PPA, that Act 663.
Yes, because it is 100% owned by the state.
Right.
And their explanation that they use internally generated funds, is it internally generated funds from their pockets?
Right.
It is from the public. It is public funds. So it is still a public organization that runs under the Public Financial Management Act. But even this is provided for in the 663.
Right.
So it just tells me that people do not understand what they do.
That's a good point we should all think on. Lack of legal awareness. Conversation. And we'd like to know, what's the latest update on this missing ECG containers saga, please?
Well, thank you very much. As you may be aware, some nationals have been arrested because of the long weekend. I believe they are still processing them. Next week, I'm sure they would arraign them before court. But if anything positive has come out of this expose, it is the fact that we keep receiving a lot of calls and intelligence from the general public about the whereabouts of these containers. Most of the factories and the warehouses we have uncovered these cables are as a result of Ghanaians, patriotic citizens who call in and out and offer information. And it does appear that this is very invasive. It's been going on for years, and the state has been shortchanged for quite some time now. And so I want to commend all those patriotic Ghanaians who keep calling us and giving us information. My vision is simple. I want all these containers and their content accounted for. I don't want to get into the political arena so much, even though it's important that we clarify the duration and the period and those who superintended over this mess. But my primary focus, my cardinal objective, is to get to the whereabouts of these containers and their content, retrieve them, and use them for their intended purpose. Today, the grid is not very stable. The distribution network, the slightest rainfall you get, the power keeps going out. Most of the system is overloaded. We need this equipment to inject into the system, stabilize power, and recover the money. We can't spend another round of money going to buy similar items when with some amount of effort, we can retrieve these items or their monetary value. And so that is my focus. But the last bit is that the law will take its course. And I'm sure that the law enforcement agencies have already written to the security agencies and the law enforcement agencies, NIB in particular, have written to them. And so they'll conduct a thorough investigation. And then those who are held liable, they'll be given the opportunity and their day in court.
So will your ministry publish a full investigative report and the findings? Will you make it public?
I've published this current investigation.
No, you said that the NIB and some other agencies will be investigating.
Oh, certainly.
Okay.
And I'm thinking I'll brief the president on Wednesday. Beyond this, I think that we need some experts, especially if we can get a former customs official, somebody who is worked at Jakpa before, maybe a very good, experienced clearing agent, those who understand how containers are received, how they are cleared from the port, those who understand the manifest and the serial numbers and all that.
Right.
I believe that if we have a 3 or 5 member team and they have the full record, they can trace how these containers got out of the port and where they ended. And then they can help the security agencies so that they collaborate together in order to get to the bottom of this matter. And that will be made known to everybody.
Okay. We know that 14 nationals, individuals have been arrested. Has that number increased?
I am in the constituency. As of today, I haven't gotten a full brief yet.
Okay.
But I know that the security agencies were pursuing some Indian nationals. The very last warehouse we went to, when we got there, all of them had bolted. And they had locked the warehouses. But when you peep through, you can see a lot of these drums, the cables, with ECG on the wooden pallets. So I don't know whether they've apprehended them yet, but I know that the security agencies are on their trail and they are looking for them.
So aside the 40 containers that you found, have you found any more? Or just these cables that you saw at the other warehouse? Where?
A lot of cables, because what they do is that when they take the container, they take the cables out of the container and then they go to Ashanti. When you use the motorway from Tema towards Accra, after the overhead, the Ashanti overhead, you would see on your right that there are a lot of containers parked there. And then you see a lot of wooden pallets bent beside the containers. So they offload the content and they go there and just dump the container and then bend the wooden pallets to conceal their nefarious activities. So we've seen a lot of cables. Also, a lot of the cables have already been melted into aluminium rods. And so most of the factories we went to, you see a lot of cables stockpiled, but then you see a lot of aluminium rods already processed from these cables, yet to be exported. And because it's been going on for some time now, we need a very detailed work in order to get to the bottom of this matter.
Right. Lastly, before you go, I want to pick your opinion on this. Do you think it's possible for us to de-link this scandal or scandals like these from politics? Or should I say partisan politics?
That is my objective. I want to, in fact, if you listen to me very carefully, the very first day the report was presented to me, I did not even go into the timelines. I did not go into which political regime this whole thing started. It's only when our opponents attempted to engage in the unnecessary politicking and began to blame President Mahama and myself, and even MPs, particularly Reverend Nitin Forjo, and I thought he would have been quite objective, went on air and started attacking me and trying to hold me responsible for all these containers. Then we had to give the details that, look, it really started in 2019. It got worse in 2022, 2023, and 2024. I could have continued with this system because people are benefiting from it. But as minister, I thought that we have to stop it. And so I thought that all of us would have put the politics aside, encourage the minister to get to the bottom of this matter, publish the findings, and then whoever is held liable, the law courts will deal with that. But like you said, at least you in particular, you are focused on the main issue, and I commend you for that. Let's get to the bottom of this matter. Crime is crime. Let's deal with it. And then whoever is liable, let the law take its course.
John Abdullahi Jinapor, the Minister for Energy and Green Transition, thank you for joining